Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Boxcaster. I'm your host Dan, and joining me on today's episode we have Kier Edward.
Hey, how's it going?
So, pretty much right now, we are going to be giving you guys the very first episode of our Faction Focused. If you guys listened to the very first episode of the year where we kind of went through some of the stuff we want to do in 2021, well, this is one of them. But kind of a funny story with this one, because this is actually an episode that we pre-recorded about, what, 2 months ago?
Yeah, just coming up on the holidays there.
Yeah, and then my lazy ass took a little too long to edit it actually, and then when I finally got around to it, finding out the audio was not the greatest. So you know what? Here's round two, but you know what? I think it's probably going to work to our advantage because we have the Death Guard Codex to kind of do a little bit of comparisons. And as we're recording it right now, the Codex actually just came out last week. So we can kind of be like, okay, here's some things they took away. And while we talk about this faction, which is the one, the only, the Chaos God himself, Khorne,
Yep.
we can actually kind of be like, you know what? If there's ever a Khorne Demokin or World Leaders Codex to come out, what can we take away from this, from what we've seen from the Death Guard Codex, so that they either lost, they gain, and kind of give our insight on what do we hope to see if they come out with it, and kind of give a little bit of a game plan what we would do when the time comes we can finally play it. But more or less, what we're going to be doing in this episode is sitting in front of me. We have four books from the Chaos Space Marine book. We have the Demons, Engine War, and Faith and Fury. We're kind of just going to give a little bit of an overview of stuff that we either played ourselves, some combos that we kind of came upon, and just to be like, when you are playing Khorne, here are some key units that you should be either using, not using, why, what are some stratagems, and just give, like I said, our own overview of what we think is really good or pass when it comes to Khorne.
Yep.
So,
I'd say that's fair.
not exactly. So pretty much what we'll do is we'll start off with the basic Chaos Space Marine Codex. We'll go through a couple of the HQs that we see fit that if you are going to be playing World Eaters. And then we'll move on to some, like I said, the supplements, Faith and Fury, and the Engine Wars. And even, like I said, dive into the Demons Codex and kind of pull out of there stuff that you'll probably see being played. So we'll jump right over to the Chaos Space Marine book and start off number one, Demon Prince. So yourself, Kier, as we were playing World Leaders and stuff, did you ever find yourself playing a Demon Prince? If so, why or why not?
I preferred the demon version as opposed to the CSM version because the axe is super nice. The demon axe he has,
Mm,
and I found mainly when the World Eaters came out. It's kind of jumping around a little bit, but as far as the Demon Prince, I preferred having the Chaos Lord with the jump pack because you got to give him Gorefather, right? And you
definitely.
don't get that with the Demon Prince. So I know the Khorne Demon Prince from the CSM book has a nice relic axe, and yeah, I don't know. It's just pretty good. Pumps out. It's called Skull Reaver. You get to reroll all failed wounds for this weapon when targeting a Titanic unit. But it's +3 strength, -4 d6 damage, and each time you make a wound roll of 6+ for this weapon, the target suffers d3 mortal wounds in addition to the normal damage.
That's the
And I
huge part right
found,
there is the whole addition, because a lot of times you see it's like deals mortal wounds but ends all attacks. But here's like just having that extra on top is just like, oh, so nice.
yeah, Gorefather's like that.
Mm.
The 3 mortal wounds ends the sequence, but you can give him Flames of Spite. So on sixes, he does an additional mortal wound. So it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of a little cheeky, but the one thing I do like about the CSM Demon Prince is Talisman of Burning Blood, great relic, advance and charge. And who
Mm.
doesn't want that? You know, you can kind of hold him back a little bit, and if there's a threat on the board, warp time him, send him in, away he goes, right?
Mm-hmm. But
Um,
what you use a blasphemy word right there. Warp time. Korn does not believe in magic.
I'm sorry, man.
We're talking straight on corn. This is no souping in word
All right,
bearers and all that. We're talking straight up
all right,
corn.
fair enough. Anyway, advance and charge definitely gives you some
Mm.
extra range.
Oh,
Now,
big time.
because earlier on you mentioned how we have the DG Codex, Death Guard Codex now. Some things did change with the Demon Prince, and it will be interesting to see if this makes it to the CSM book.
Mm.
Chiefly, the Malefic Talons are so the whole book gained +1 attack and lost Hateful Assault.
Mm-hmm.
So the new Demon Prince in the Death Guard book has an additional attack, making for 6. Malefic Talons give him +1 attack and are only -1 AP, but the axes and swords lost the -1 to hit. So I think
That's definitely huge, and I think they're trying to throw more at to be able to use some of the bigger weapons. Because I'll be honest, that's a lot of times why I never use them. Because it's like, yeah, you're hitting on 2s, but now Demon Prince hitting on 3s. It's like, okay, re-rolling, but like I rather the sure hit of 2 ups. But
yeah, I think the importance of flat 3 damage is really started to pop through too, right? Once upon a time, 2 damage Malefic Talons were perfect for everything.
mm,
And then this whole Primaris line came along, and they talked about all the Terminators getting an extra wound, and so the Malefic Talons have been tried and true for so long. Sort of, they reeled them in a bit. The other big change we saw in the book was the movement wings option. So they've gone from base 6-inch move to base 8-inch move, and the fly has been reduced to base 10-inch move and the fly keyword, and still costs 35 points.
I'm
So
almost
now,
wondering if that's a Death Guard thing, just because where Nurgle is technically slower. But even with that being said, everything else in the book gained that +1 movement that kind of lost. But I'm kind of hoping that the fact that it's a slower Demon Prince is going to be strictly Nurgle. And I'm kind of hoping that when it comes to the basic Chaos Space Marine book or Khorne, that it doesn't get affected. We'll still have that 12-inch movement when it comes to the wings. But again, it's all speculation, really, until we see it. But
yeah, the thing that sort of deterred me from that thought is if that were the case, then I would have expected to see a Demon Prince with +1 toughness as just a Nurgle thing, right? And it didn't get that. So, because I mean,
true.
traditionally, I think even back in 7th, I'm pretty sure Nurgle was just like a base +1 toughness if you mark Nurgle. I'm trying to
I
think
think
back
so,
now,
yeah, because I think Khorne
right?
gave you +1 attacker strength, and then Nurgle was the +1 toughness, and it was +1 casting for Zeech and so on. But
Yeah, yeah. So they dialed that back, but
mm,
to be honest, I mean, I just as long as there's diversity in, like, I think PA, the Psychic Awakening was really good
mm,
for Chaos. It gave it a lot of flavor, a lot more flavor than the initial Codex did.
definitely.
So if they're just going to go with a base data sheet that's the same all the way across, but you're going to get more flavor within each mark, then I'm here for it. So
Oh no, definitely. And like you said, it's like you want to make that character feel special to that list, to that unit, or like to the book itself. So,
yeah,
so
they jacked up the cost of Demon Princes, and I don't know, I haven't been super on board for the 200-point Demon Princes.
yeah. I mean,
So
they definitely do the job worth, but like I said, when you throw in two, like a Chaos Lord and an Exalted Champion for the same price, and you're getting double the benefits, yeah, they're going to die maybe a little bit faster, but they're not
mhm,
targetable. So it all depends on how you're going to play it along.
yeah,
Yeah. So
but we can
go
use our
ahead.
axes, no minus a hit, and that's the
And,
most corn thing you can
and
do.
exactly. So talking about Axis, moving on, the man himself, Karn the Betrayer. I
Oh
love
yeah,
playing him competitively. There's better options, but if I ever play a fluffy game, he's going to be leading the hell out of my army.
I mean, I feel like I've wronged the Blood God if I don't put him in the list. I don't know.
Uh,
I mean, I love him. He's awesome.
he's
He's
such a good
great.
character, and I guess the only reason if when I'm playing competitively, I don't put him in is because half the time I'm always running him next to a unit of berserkers, and I'm always killing myself half the time because, well, you see how I roll.
Very good. Very
But I
good.
mean, like a lot of times too, like points wise, he's very like resourceful for what his cost point is. But I do catch myself a lot of times just throwing a Chaos Lord, like you said, throw on Gorefather, throw on an Exalted Champion, and just getting the rerolls to hits, reroll the wounds in the fight phase, and but then again, I never play the same list twice. I mean, Karn, like I
Yeah,
said, it's fun throwing him into this big Titanic thing and just to see this wee little man just chop an ankle off and just win it.
dude. I mean, he's my latest rendition of a World Leaders list has Karn in it. I think
Mhm.
people forget how good he is, man. I mean, he's
Oh, he is. He
115
is.
points, reroll failed hit rolls for World Eaters, and he gets to fight twice. I mean, the only real down, he's a 4-up invul. His axe shreds, you
Mm.
know, um, and like neg 4 D3, 6 attacks, and well, we'll say 6 because we don't know what's going to happen with Hateful Assault. But
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing is you just have to position him so he doesn't end up killing as many Zerkers as he does other dudes. But
Well, and that's the thing, because you still want to keep him close enough. But the only complaint I have, and I would love to see, is for Gorechild, just go flat 3. Give the boy flat 3 damage. None of this D3 bullshit.
yeah, we'll see. I think Power Fists were D3 and they capped him out at 2. So
Hmm.
even 2 would be fine. It's just, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I just love the model, man.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
so
I own
biased,
3 of
dude.
them.
I own the 30K and the 40K one, and I mean, the guy's just a boss, dude. Like, I don't know, man. I think eighth sort of he just seemed super weak in eighth because he's just foot slogging up the board, and now
Mm.
with the new terrain and it's not so killy anymore. I don't know, man. I think you gotta put him on the board in ninth once all this COVID stuff's done, dude. I think ninth has paved the way for him to just go mid board and be like, I'm here.
Yeah,
Who else?
I'm calling when we have our Khorne on Khorne battle, we're gonna have like Karn versus the clone of Karn, but we don't know which one's the clone, and they're just gonna beat the crap out of each other. It's gonna be
I think
glorious. There'll be blood everywhere.
you mean when our new World Eaters Codex comes out this
Ah,
year, right?
I hope. Like I'm just double fingers, double toes, everything's crossed
Yeah.
at this point.
I will say that Faith and Fury was great. It
Mm.
made World Eaters feel super cool and not as lackluster. Like I don't know. I'll say it time and time again. The Psychic Awakening for all Chaos Legions was great. It was so clutch for the Chaos books, and I just hope that that they realize that they can dive so much deeper. You know, like we've talked about before, supplements
Mm.
for Emperor's Children and World Eaters. Even just those two would be
No, it's
fine,
true
even if it
because
was
like
just a
right now,
supplement, right?
yeah, because like right now you have the full on Death Guard, full on Thousand Suns, and I know people are gonna be like, well, why do we just get a supplement? But like, look, listen, they have a whole new range. Unless they start pumping out whole new ranges for Slanesh and Khorne, no, we're not gonna get a full on book. But like you said, supplements more than viable. Just give us a couple, like, give us some new Zerkers, give us like a specific Khorne Exalted Champion, like just little things like that. Throw into a
Yeah.
supplement, give us some stratagems, and yeah, there we go. Go along our way and have a good old
Give
bloody
us
time.
give us a way to get into combat better.
That'd be the big one. Like I look at Slanesh and I know it's the speed, so obviously that's why they got the advance and charge. But it's like with Khorne, it's like we should have it, but I know they kind of compensated by giving us the extra strength, which I get.
Yeah.
And we also
Uh,
have the fight twice in the fight phase, 3 times with
yeah.
the stratagem. But like you said, it's to get there to make it happen.
Yeah. I will say one thing. The main deterrent. So when you say corn, just to clarify, I believe you're just speaking about World Eater specifically, um, because the one thing corn is actually really cool and is things like a bio list where you can advance and charge or Red Corsairs. And the big thing that stopped Red Corsairs is losing Veterans of the Long War.
Yeah.
And if they're going to change that or make that accessible to Red Corsairs, then I think they could take Red Corsairs and World Eaters and sort of blend them together. I
Mm.
don't know. I think there's something there. I think I gotta believe that there's someone who works for GW who's like, Corn's not good enough. You
Korn
know?
just wronged him in a wrong way,
Yeah,
and then
dude.
he's like
Like,
these mental flashbacks of just
oh
Korn
god,
beating his. Yeah, there's reasons. There's
he has
reasons.
night
Hopefully
terrors.
he'll turn. Yes,
I'll tell
bloody
you what
night
it is.
terrors.
They realize the models are cool enough, so it doesn't matter what rules people will buy them.
Exactly.
Here we are.
So moving along to the next choice. So obviously we're going to be skipping by like all the stuff that obviously you cannot use in a World Leaders or in a Khorne list. So after Karn, we have just your basic Chaos Lord.
Could I think it's worth jumping back a moment. Just talking about Red Corsairs again.
Mm.
We're not going to go too deep into it, but here on Blackheart is absolutely great for his points.
Oh, big
So
time.
if you are interested in corn and not specifically limiting yourself to World Eaters, for
Mm.
example, a Red Corsairs corn list with Huron Blackheart could be very strong. And I again, you're gonna chastise me, but he can cast Warp Time.
Yeah.
Moving on. Let's just move on
It's like I
quickly.
know between Fabius Bile, I know, but
I ain't talking about
that's
bile.
not.
No, no, no. I ain't only talking about bile. Huron Blackheart is sick. Okay, he's just as cool as Karn. There, I said
Mm.
it. And he's got fantastic rules. Anyway,
No, he does. And I mean, you know what? That honestly would be another supplement. Like, give us a Red Corsairs. It has a named character.
Yep. They could do like just a renegade supplement,
No, it's true.
right?
Full on renegade and have him leading the whole entire thing.
Because there were not to deviate too much from the topic, but the renegade traits, there were some very neat things that sort of came to fruition along the way, like the
Mm,
purge, being able to shoot. I remember when people you could tie stuff up with poxwalkers and then take Derrideos and shoot into that squad of
mm,
poxwalkers, whatever they were tied up with,
yeah.
and you'd kill poxwalkers, but you didn't care because you could just bring them back,
Oh, exactly.
right? So it was like almost good for you, you know what I mean? So there definitely I'm on board if they wanted to do a renegade supplement for CSM. I think there's a lot of I think it could almost be its own supplement with its own stratagems and everything. I don't
No,
know. They'd have
exactly.
to anyway, but that's we're deviating. So
No, we're brainstorming. Like we're talking world eaters, but like I said, like I know I bitch and I complain. It's like no, straight on world eaters. But like no, like I play with the ideas with the Red Corsairs, with the word bearers and stuff like that. Because obviously, to be competitive, you need to obviously switch things around this and that. But I mean, when it comes to straight on corn, like I just love experimenting with the ideas. Like how can I make this as strong as possible?
yeah,
And just to throw somebody for a loop, being like, you can do that? I'm like, yeah,
yeah,
motherfucker, I can.
while remaining true.
Well, exactly. All right. So you know what? Let's jump on before we do deviate too far, because I mean, we can honestly talk about the same little topics over and over and over, and it'll be like 55 minutes in before we get to Chaos Lord. But like,
Yeah, I would
it's
just like to say it was cute how you mentioned competitive chaos when really the only thing that makes chaos more competitive is warp time chaos. Like
it's
you're
true,
talking
but
about all these ways to be like, oh, you can do that, but really it's just like you write a chaos list at 1,850 points just so you can have a warp time patrol in there,
it's just
right?
you know it's going to be there. It's going to be at the bottom of the list. It's going to be
Yeah.
there. You play it off like it's not going to, but
Too noisy, man.
no, so yeah, so moving on, so we have, like I said, the basic Chaos Lord, and like I said, I always have a Chaos Lord in my list. Like I said, straight up just for Gorefather himself, but again, just giving the reroll hits of 1 for friendly Legion, 4 up
Yeah,
invul and save, which is huge because if I remember correctly, in 8th, Chaos Lords and Exalted Champions didn't have the 4 up invul and save,
Exalted Champions still don't. They get no involved.
or maybe
Um,
that's what I'm kind of thinking. Okay,
yeah.
yeah. No, I'm looking. But like at the
Um,
beginning of 8th, before like obviously this book came out, like at the tail end of 7th going into 8th, I don't remember the Chaos Lord himself having a, or if he did, it was only like a 5 up,
Yeah,
maybe.
you might be right. I'm not sure now. I'm drawing a total blank on that. But I mean, I agree with you. You know, a Chaos Lord and a Khorne list is just it's so vanilla. You can do whatever
Mm,
you want with it.
throw a jump pack
Um,
on him every time.
yeah, and I mean, the Psychic Awakening was fantastic, and it
Mm,
brought new relics, new Warlord traits, all these things, and it's just as much as I love Karn, there's definitely a very strong argument to bringing just a stock, Chaos Warlord, and just making him what you want.
exactly.
I
And,
mean,
and that's what it is. Yeah, he's super customizable. You throw Gorefather on him, you can throw Power Fist on him, you can power maul him for all you care. But like I said, it is fun. He is super cheap. If I remember correctly, with the jump pack fully kitted out, I think it was something like 90 points or 92 points, give or take. And
yeah,
I don't
it's
have all the updated points ahead of me. Like I'm going back to whenever I was making the list with it. And I remember it
yeah,
being, like
yeah.
I said, around that 90 points with jump pack.
It's like 105, I think. But
Okay, still not bad. I
the
mean,
no, not bad at all. And I mean, there's so many options. We're talking about advance in charge, talisman of burning blood,
mm,
great relic. A disco lord with that, for example, like that's a massive threat range. And Gorefather, fantastic. I
hmm
mean, just pumping out mortal wounds. Um, the we I think we talked about it, but the flames of spite with
yeah,
Gorefather means that on a 6 to wound, that warlord just put 4 mortal wounds on something,
yeah.
and mortal wounds are huge. Like
No,
you
it's
know,
if you're not dealing out X amount of mortal wounds in this edition, you are behind. You are hands down because with everything with invuln saves now and everything going on with the
shit,
multi wounds, like
yeah,
you need to dish out at least some sort of mortal wound output, or yeah, you are going to be behind. But
yeah.
moving on to the next one, we have again just Chaos Lord and Terminator armor, which again I've caught myself starting to use a little bit more and more with it, deep strike them in and stuff. And
Yeah, there's one warlord trait that world eaters get called violent urgency, and it's +1 to advance and charge. And the advance, it's tricky if you can't actually advance and charge, but
Yeah.
it gives some mobility, right? But the main one is getting that 8-inch re-rollable because of Icon of Wrath
Yeah.
charge out of Deep Strike.
Hmm.
8-inch re-rollable, I want to say off the top of my head, is somewhere around 72%, whereas the 9-inch re-rollable, I believe, is like 48%. Like there's a pretty
For it's a huge gap for something so like just one number off. But
yeah,
yeah, definitely.
and just turning it into something like that where it's 50% to 70%, like that's huge.
Mm.
And I mean, and that from my experience, jumping into world eaters like the Red Butchers, for example, they can fight twice, they can do all these crazy things. If they fail that charge,
Oh, you're a sitting duck. You're done. Like
but
you're
if
gonna
they
be
make
either
that
shot off.
charge,
It's either you're gonna wreck face or you're gonna get your face wrecked. And that's
yes,
what I've always noticed with Khorne. It's
yeah,
like if you get in like I remember one game like turn two, I got super lucky. I tagged three predators with one unit, and I tagged something else with other like I'm going with bloodletters right now. Like it
right,
wasn't even the bloodletter bomb. Like essentially, I
yeah,
just
yeah,
ran them up. I got in, and in a matter of like two turns, tabled.
yeah,
But if I would not have made those charges,
yeah.
I would have probably been tabled.
Yeah, and I mean, no one wants to go to tournaments with lottery armies, right? Like,
Mm,
it's just not. We to be clear, we talk about competitive play, but when you're invested in like going to a GT, spending the money on the gas and the hotel and the foods, all these things, that there's nothing wrong with bringing your best damn list, right? And
that's what
we
tournaments are
have
for. Yeah.
exactly, and we have all these fun games all the time at the club and stuff like that. And so when we say competitive, competitively speaking, we're not telling you don't run this.
Mm.
You should definitely run whatever you want. It's just we've kind of, through trial and error, found things that work for us. And there's a whole aspect of play style and things like that where, you might be successful running 30 Terminators of
Mm.
Khorne starting on the board.
Yeah.
That's you, right? So, I don't want people to have a negative feeling towards the idea of competitive,
Oh no.
um, right? But there's definitely, through trial and error, some things sort of come to the forefront.
Oh
And
yeah. Like if you don't trial and error, you'll never find out that these units are good. Like I don't know
yeah,
how many times, like I said, I'm like, you know what, I got this in my collection. I'm just gonna run it just for the hell of it.
yeah,
And then even I catch myself, I'm like, holy crap, I can do that. Like
yeah,
it's not even like a got you moment. It's like I got me moment. And
absolutely,
then
yeah,
then I start using it more and more. I'm like, holy crap! So now you're telling me if I can team this up with this ability, and then you're like just mind blown, and then your opponent's looking, he's like, "Are you all right, man?" He's like, "Yeah, but you're not going to be soon."
yeah,
but but that's the fun of the game. I mean, but like you said, whenever you talk competitive, people get scared.
I know,
And when competitive, like you said, you want to be competitive when you go to a tournament because like you're not gonna be that guy's like, you know what, I'm gonna go for fun. And you know what? Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't do it. Like I know people that
yeah,
will go to tournaments just for fun, just to have fun.
they
And
are
that's the
fun,
thing. Exactly.
yeah,
But like you said, when you go to a tournament, that's when you're bringing your list that you spent more than 5 minutes on. Like you took trial and error, you've played games, you made sure like this works. You bring it to prove that it worked.
yeah. I think our goal for this episode is to encourage people who are interested in corn to not be uh, dissuaded by things they hear on the internet and stuff like that because
Mm,
it's a very distinct play style. And like I called it a lottery army
mm,
earlier. I mean, there are competitive armies that do that very well, like orcs,
yep.
for example. When you roll hot with orcs, whew, buddy. But on the flip side, right? So, I think Danny and I, we want to encourage people to look into corn because I think, I don't know, for you, I feel like they're just so low on the love scale right now. And,
Oh no, beyond.
you know,
Like you like some people you
they're
say
good.
corn and you're like, who?
Yeah.
You mean Nurgle, right? It's like, no.
Oh, man.
But no, I know what you mean. It's like corn has always been at the bottom of the Chaos Gods. Like even Slanesh lately has been getting hell of a lot more love. I'm like, dude, that's just no. Don't get me wrong, I like Slanesh. I'm just saying
Well,
no because Brian plays them. But I mean,
yeah. There's something to say about Slanesh getting love. But as corn, we want to draw more blood. So
mm,
we need better rules,
we
right?
just need that rule to hit harder, to be in your face, and just you
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Uh, but
So
again,
next
before we
time,
get too off target,
yeah, yeah.
next one we have here, and like I said, another one that I use, the Exalted Champion.
If you're
Not
running a melee army, best damn HQ.
Well, and that's the thing, just to get the reroll on wounds now. So, like I said, I always run. If I'm running a blob of say 20 berserkers or something like that, one end I have the Exalted Champion, other end I have the Chaos Lord,
Yep.
and you're essentially rerolling everything.
Mm-hmm. And daisy chaining isn't as dead as they sold it to be on ninth edition. You can
No,
still do it.
you just need to know how to position properly, and that's all it is. As long as you can do it right, you can spread
Yeah.
yourself out. You can wrap properly. It's just the people being like they want to just do that one single ring. It's like, well, no,
Yeah.
you have to play it more smart than that.
Yeah, and the board being smaller makes it a little easier to double up, so you
Mm,
can daisy chain. I mean,
big time.
I will say that the amount of reach that say like 30 plague bearers had in eighth was obnoxious. Like
Mm.
I had games where I don't know, I remember I'll never forget I played this one doubles tournament and I was playing Red Corsairs Chaos. My buddy was playing Death Guard, and we played against the Tau Demons joint
Okay.
conglomerate, and all the demons dude ran was like 90 plague bearers and some stuff, and they just took board control, and the
No, it's
Tau
true.
castle just sat in the middle shooting you.
Yeah,
It was the lamest doubles list I've ever seen. Like
but
these
it
people
worked.
had to win the tournament,
Yeah.
so whatever. But I mean, I'm glad that they reeled in daisy chaining a bit.
Yeah.
It was too much. I mean, you
It was,
gave
especially like you said, you run 30 across the board, you double daisy chain at 60 across the board. So unless you have flying, you're not getting across.
Yeah, then talking about that doubling up, like even if you shoot one squad, you still can't get through depending on
Mm.
how like there's I think as a whole, the idea of dazing chaining and the way it works now is definitely an improvement.
Oh, big time.
But, as Danny was saying, you can still use these two HQs, and as long as they keep the idea of a unit within six as opposed to a model, there's a lot of space you could take and still,
Hmm.
thump away on them. But yeah, the Exalted Champion's fantastic. I mean, he can take tons of weapons, and he can fit in a Rhino, take up one slot, and whatever you want to punch. Now you can even put him in strategic reserves
Yep.
for, what is he, like 4 power level now, or 5 power level or something? So it's one
5
CP.
power level, unless it didn't
Yeah.
change in the last FAQ. So,
So he's awesome. I mean,
hmm
I think any army that's melee would kill to have an Exalted Champion. He's 75 points. Like,
oh, it's dirt cheap. Sucks you can't put a jetpack on him just to kind of keep up with the Chaos Lord, but whatever. Like you
oh
said, you put him in the
gosh.
Rhino with 9
Yeah.
Berserkers, run him up. You just have the Chaos Lord in behind. Champ.
Yep.
There you go.
Great.
So,
Great HQ.
so,
I
so,
hope
so
he
next,
stays.
yeah, so next HQ, I've never run this yet. I want to run this. Lord Discordant, 3
My
Blood
love.
Slaughters with the Khitan.
Yeah.
Just have fun. Just
Yeah,
have
man.
bloody fun.
That's right.
But no,
Park him
Lord
beside
Discordant.
a Lord of Skulls, maybe.
You know what? Have him too. Why not?
Yeah.
But no, Lord Discordant, like I said, I've seen him run properly in some Khorne lists, and in general, you throw Lord Discordant in any list, he's gonna do his job. Like I remember the Lord Discordant, 3 Daredeos and Leviathan. It wrecked face.
Yeah. Sounds
But like I
fun.
said, yeah. So there was like I said, that was the list that was in my head because Bloodslaughters of Khorne from the Forge World. If you are not running them in a Khorne list, you are missing out. When you can throw a character into a unit of 10 guys, you're getting, if I remember correctly, 10 attacks on the charge, hitting on twos, wounding on twos, 3 flat damage. Like, it's ridiculous. So you pair 3 of those up with Lord Discord and get all the buffs and all that out of it. Oh,
Yeah.
it's just, yeah.
I ran two for a while as Red Corsairs, because they're advanced charge. It's characters as well.
Oh, big time.
So they were fast, very fast.
Hmm.
And ninth helped them out a lot because now there's like officially an obscuring terrain that they can hide behind rather than, over the way it was in eighth where, I can see the
I
tip of
can
his
see your
tail or
tentacle. Yeah,
spear, yeah,
exactly.
whatever.
Especially being at
Like,
12 wounds, it just, like I said, you had to
yeah,
hold him back. But also in eighth, there was the relic that you can give him. I think it gave him like a 2-up save. Or no, he has a 2-up built in, but didn't it get him like a 4-up or a 3-up invuln or something like that? I never
uh,
played him myself much, but I remember like you would run 2 Lord Discordants. One would always be able to take a hit like nothing just because he always was like double buffed. But
yeah. I recall the popular Lord Discordant build wasn't Khorne, so we're not going to talk about it.
oh,
It was
yeah.
Flawless House. It was triple Flawless House.
Yeah.
They get death to the False Emperor on 4s, and 3 of them would just be blenders.
Mm.
I like them as Khorne. Red Corsairs, I would say, was the best look I found for them. The only downside I will say is I ran them with 3 Mauler Fiends, 2 Disco Lords.
Mm,
I quite like that list, but space is a thing. It's a lot
yeah.
of big bases trying to get to the same stuff.
And
So
that's a problem, especially with terrain the way it's built now. Like you'll be lucky to get a Lord Discord in one model, and then you have to wrap the other two around, hopefully to get back within aura range. And
yeah, I mean he's great. He crushes vehicles,
mm,
um, and he gets to heal yours. He has a boatload of attacks. If you have demon engines, like the blood slaughterers, as you were saying, you know, I, based off what we see in Death Guard, he'll make them hit on twos, assuming he keeps
hmm
the same rules, which is fantastic.
yeah,
And then if you just have like a vanilla lord nearby for reroll ones, then
exactly.
there you go. Everything's getting through. So now all of a sudden things like Mauler Fiends and things look a little bit more interesting, right? So
Well, and if anything that we've seen from Death Guard and all demon engines getting 3-up weapon skill, that got me so excited. I mentioned it whenever we talked about Death Guard, and I'm going to mention it now.
mhm.
3+ demon engines. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Like it's the return of the demon engines, because a lot of times everybody's like, yeah, well, I can use it, but then you would always see the Daredales and stuff like that, because obviously hitting on twos, hitting on threes, so like the basic GW stuff kind of get pushed back. But now I think with that you're going to start seeing more play of the old iconic models. And
Yeah, I hope so. I think a lot of people, one of the unique, super cool things about Chaos Space Marines is the demon engines, and they have
exactly.
definitely fallen off the radar. So
Oh, big
I
time.
think it was a needed change, and I hope there are corny things you can do to
Exactly.
turn them up to 11. So
Exactly.
I'd like
So,
to put my Mauler Fiends on the table again.
oh man, I got Mauler Fiends here that hasn't seen a whole lot of play, because, like I said, it's always blood slaughters. But like, hey,
Yeah.
you can start mixing them in, and they can pack just as much of a punch. So,
Yep. Oh
so
yeah.
moving on to the next one, Warp Smith. As a character, great, but I've never, like I said, like obviously he can repair some of the engines and stuff like that, but I've never caught myself once playing a Warp Smith.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, I feel like the theme of this episode being Khorne, there isn't really anything crazy interesting we can talk because he's basically supposed to camp with shooting vehicles and heal them. Like that's more or less.
Exactly.
If we were doing a Faith and Fury thing and we started getting to Iron Warriors,
Well, I was gonna
then
say
he
when you say
becomes more
Warp
interesting.
Smith, Iron
Yeah,
War is the first thing. And like I said, I don't think I've
absolutely.
ever seen a Warp Smith in anything else.
Yeah, I mean they're just it's Legion vehicles. I don't know what do you like. What reason would you have to bring him over a Disco Lord? I don't know.
Exactly.
So I think we could just move on.
Master of Execution. As a character, again, Marco Corn, he can do a lot of damage, but again, he doesn't really give off much buffs or anything at all. Like I just there's better options. I mean, the
Uh,
model's cool. He dishes out a lot. Like, don't get me wrong, but
they with the detachment changes of ninth, I think this guy makes more sense as an elite slot as opposed to an HQ.
true. I
And
could see that maybe getting a switch around with the next book.
yeah, and if you move him to the elite slot, I think he becomes much cooler because now you can access him much easier.
Hmm
HQ slots are definitely the limiting for me in chaos lists, the limiting and deciding factors about patrols. It doesn't really go much further than that for me.
Yeah,
How do I get my 4 HQs in this list?
yeah.
Usually. So if you move this guy to elite, me personally, I like to have 2 squads of cultists kind of hanging out in the back. They're sort of throwaways, but I feel like there's always 2 objectives that you just want to be on
Oh,
and not really
exactly.
over invested. Now all of a sudden you take, Master of Executions and drop him in the middle of these things. He's 60 or 65 points,
Yeah, dirt
and
cheap.
if things come and charge it, and he's covered, the cultists die. He comes out and he just beats the crap out of them.
Well,
And
and
I
especially he
think
has a 6-inch heroic intervention too. So
exactly right. So, like I said, I mean, it was easier to see him. I know for a fact myself in eighth, I would write lists and I'd have like a spare 60 points and I'd put him in because he's good. He's good for
yeah,
what he does.
but like you
But
said, not as an HQ slot.
yeah, I mean, they need to knight them. I
Yeah.
want them to keep the model. I want him. It would be nice if he. I don't know. Yeah, I think honestly the biggest thing for him is just move him to the elites. People will take
hmm
him again. It's just HQs cost you CP now. They don't make you CP. So
Exactly. Yeah. So moving on to the next one, we have the Dark Apostle, which honestly is Again, I'm talking pure corn, no souping, is the one way to get your buffs.
He can bang with the best of them as Khorne.
Hmm.
You give him like a black mace, put Wrathful Entreaty on himself. You know, you can you can get super cheeky with this guy, and he can just beat the crap out of things. So the funny part, as you talk about getting buffs, I mean, my for me personally, my favorite thing is to give invols to rhinos with berserkers and potentially berserkers after.
Yeah.
That's how I've seen him for myself, anyways. Because getting those, especially now with them only being one wound, getting them those invols makes a big deal. Like,
Oh
you know,
yeah.
if someone's going to wipe out a squad of 10, now you've effectively given them 13 wounds statistically, right? Like, it gives them a little bit more of a buffer. And same with the rhinos. I mean, rhinos on their own they don't take much, but if you give them a five up invul, you know, now you sort of have to look at this thing and kind of deal with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, as Khorne, I mean, you can do some stuff with Wrathful Entreaty. I think it makes you can get his weapons to neg 4, and he does like I don't know. Let me. It's been a while
Yeah,
since I
it
looked
pretty
at
much
this.
if the prayer is heard, the priest's melee weapons have an armor penetration of 4.
Yeah, and then there's another way to do it. I looked like super into this lately. I've just been running him as just the aura giver,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I mean, he can beat the crap out of stuff, dude. You can give him Wrathful Entreaty +2 to his strength characteristic.
Well, I mean, just
Um,
even the plus
Omen of
at
Potency. That's the one I was thinking of. It's
yeah.
+3 attacks at neg 4.
Oh yeah, that'd
So
be
now he
great
goes
stuff.
up World Eaters and Shock Assault. Now he's doing 8 attacks. And then if you wanted to give him the Black Mace, now he's doing 8 attacks as World Eaters at strength 8.
Oh yeah. No,
And on
he's definitely an
6s he
auto
had
take.
Worlds.
Yeah, like most
Um,
lists I've been running, it was always going to be Dark Apostle, Chaos Lord, Exalted Champion. If I'm not running Karn,
yeah,
and those are my HQ choices right there.
yeah. I just I feel like I've seen him more lately. Just I regularly like to go into BCP and just see what sort of chaos looks like
Yeah.
from time to time. And one of the things I found is like you are starting to see that Black Legion, Khorne, Dark Apostle coming up, and
Mm-hmm.
just like he's got Wrathful Entreaty, and he's just coming in and like taking
Oh,
names,
just
dude. Like,
wrecking face.
yeah.
And
So
that's the thing. As long as you take the time to look at these combos, and I find a lot of times, like you were saying, it's like people kind of just look past Corn, but like Corn has some of like the funnest combos you can have, and if you can make them run right, oh, it's so satisfying.
yeah, yeah. I mean it's. The big thing is just the heartbreak of failed charges. If you can get over that, you can
Yeah,
have a lot of fun with Khorne. And
exactly.
that in and of itself is tough because you
Mm.
basically have to play the list so that you're not setting yourself up for those failures and write the list of that so that when you do get those failures, you're not losing 20 Khorne Berserkers because of it. Like I've seen
Hmm.
to some success World Eaters run with MSU, just
Yeah.
5-man Zerkers, 5-man Possessed, 5-man Turns because if the thing
Well,
fails to
well, I mean,
charge,
5-man Berserker,
cover.
you're still pumping out over 20 attacks at like
Yeah,
strength 5 -2 now because of
yeah.
the axes getting the minus extra AP. And then, like I said, as of right now, we still have Death of the False Emperor fighting twice. A 5-man unit gets 40 plus attacks. Like
If
that's
they, yeah,
ridiculous.
if they get to charge, um, then like so the funny thing about the way their fight twice is written is it actually happens in sequence. So if you
Mhm.
charged, they get to do a lot of the fight lasts say after
Everything
whatever
has already
after
fought or something. Yeah.
yes corn fight twice. You can nominate that unit. Do you want to CP interrupt? No. Okay, I'm going to fight with that unit again.
Yes,
And if
because.
corn, yeah, even 5 Zerkers, like you said, I mean, if you want to put like a power fist on the sergeant or something,
Mhm.
whatever, if they get to do all that, there's not a lot
No,
that
not. They're going
will
to be
be left
walking
to.
away.
Yeah, so you know they're definitely very much, in my opinion, a bully unit,
Hmm.
um, and you know I've been thinking a lot about the idea of Zerkers getting 2 wounds, and I don't know, man.
It's almost scary to be honest.
Well, you lose out on all those attacks, right? They're gonna go up in points
Mm,
for sure.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
So maybe they're better off as just 1 wound troops at whatever 16, 17 points, whatever they are.
Rather than 20 points, it's still same amount of
It's
attacks.
hard to say. I mean, you start
Yeah,
getting into what's a wound worth. But all I'm saying is over the long run, how many attacks are you losing for those extra wounds? I'm not saying I love the idea or not. Obviously, 2 wound Zerkers sounds great, but the other thing you have to think about too is people are all teching for Marines right now. All
hmm,
these 2 wound, 3 wound models. Do
yeah,
we want to be that, or do we want to have units that can just beat the crap out of you and be like, oh,
exactly.
all you have to shoot me with is with your Inceptors, and that's kind of not a great trade for you because I'm worth way less. So
Yeah,
kill
but
this
hey,
five
yeah, the
man squad,
trade-off,
right?
exactly.
So I don't know. I keep bouncing back and forth with it. And anyways, I think there's a way to do Cult Marines where they stay at 1 wound, but the books support them a lot better.
Hmm.
But that's another, a whole other conversation
Oh,
because then you start
exactly.
talking about modifiers and all these things, and it becomes way less of a Khorne episode.
It becomes a whole other episode.
Yeah. So I
All
think
right,
we'll just move on to the next data sheet.
exactly. So pretty much now we're gonna be jumping in troops. Your basic vanilla Space Marines. There's no point because World Leaders, Berserkers become your troops. You will never see basic Marines.
Yeah, as world eaters, I fully agree. However, I kind of corn to me again. That I've run it a lot as Red Corsairs corn, and with the new chainsword buffs, 5 man chainsword CSM MSU, it's good. It's better than cultists, I think. So
Oh yeah,
that's
it's
all I'll
better than
say about
cultists
it.
because they can still put the herd out, but I'll still always, like you said, have those 2 units of cultists just sit in the back. If they die,
Sure.
they die, whatever. They're just like you said, gaining you some primary points on the back lines and
Yeah. I mean, I've lately I said cultist. Lately, I have been sort of back and forth between the two because the 5 man CSM with the new chain swords becomes more
hmm.
interesting to me because they actually have a counterpunch now. So
Exactly. They're not just AP nothing, they're AP one.
yeah, and cultists on the other hand, 10 points less, take up more space, kind of. So I wouldn't say I will say this. For Red Corsairs, I definitely choose the CSM with chain swords
Oh,
because they
oh,
can still
big time,
advance and
yeah.
charge. With
Like,
world leaders, you take Zerkers.
oh, exactly. If you're moving away from world leaders, but you still want to play Corn, yes, completely agree with you. You do have like 5 man Space Marine units. You throw the Mark of Corn on them with the chain swords, perfect. But like we're in that, excuse me, in an actual world leaders, no, because like you said, you gain troops as of your berserkers.
Zerkers are what 10 points more for a 5 man squad, and look at you get so much value out of them, dude.
It's just
They're
the amount
so.
of attacks in the base
I
five,
know
but
we don't.
we're getting to them. We're getting to them. So next one, again, we've already talked a bit about it. Just but Chaos Cultists, do they have a spot in the World Leaders? Yes, for the simple fact that they're a unit you don't care about, and you sit them back because when you play Corn, nothing is supposed to sit back. But Chaos Cultists, whatever, keep them back. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, they're cheap troops. There's a few
Exactly.
little tricks and stuff you could do
Hmm.
if you choose to go that route. They are infantry. They get the Legion keyword. So unless the actual stratagem specifically exempts them, like creations of bile, and like
Yeah,
every stratagem says except cultists.
exactly.
I
You
don't know
start
enough
getting
about the
that.
lore to know why the guy hates cultists so much, but whatever, that's his deal. Um,
Exactly.
but yeah, I think world eaters for the troop slots, you're hard pressed to beat Zerkers out, man. Like I think
Exactly.
I think I still want to see someone run like a list of like 150 Zerkers, like 15 10 man squads or something, or whatever the points work out to.
Oh, it'd be so much fun. Like I had a couple lists where it was 8 rhinos and 8 man, or like yeah, it was 8 rhinos, eight man units with a couple of like lords, and it just looks fun.
Yeah, Zerkers are great.
Exactly. So we'll skip over bloodletters for now because, like I said, we'll dive into that once we get to the actual demons. Moving on. So chosen. Chosen's been in a weird spot for a very long time because they're too expensive for what they do. They're not much better than Space Marine unit, but they're not as good as a Havoc unit. They're just in between. They cost a lot and they can take special weapons.
I I wrestle with elite slots.
Uh,
I don't see myself adding detachments so that I can fit some chosen in. I
no.
just think that's where the competition, and maybe I'm always interested in seeing people prove me wrong.
Yeah.
Um, but I,
There's other
there,
units that do the same job for cheaper or get more out of it.
yeah, I just don't really know. I mean, yeah, I don't know. They're just to
Like I
me, they're
said,
just kind of weird.
I was playing with the idea with them in an actual Black Legion list because Chosen are if and like I said, maybe I'm just brain farting here, but I thought at one point, like you know how your berserkers are troops when it comes to world leaders, but wasn't Chosen the troop choice for Black Legion back in the day? Or am I just making stuff up right now? Because I remember at that time, like I'm
When I
talking
hear
like back in
Black
seven.
Legion, I think cultists when I hear Black Legion.
Yeah.
I just remember Abaddon walking around with 50 homies.
Yeah. But then there was always Abaddon's Chosen, and that's why,
Yeah.
and maybe I just thought something differently.
Uh,
But
they're, yeah.
yeah, but talking in the elite slot, like I said, I will always catch myself taking these next guys, and especially now, especially with lightning claws, but your termies, red butchers, double lightning claws. I think
Crazy
ninth
double lightning
edition, they just
claws.
got that much better.
Dude, 28 points for a single red butcher right now.
Mm,
It's nuts.
mm,
And they get the real fight twice.
yeah,
You know, we
I'm
talked
just
early.
hoping that carries over because that became a CP that you had
It
to use
has
in
to,
Fate.
man.
Yeah,
It
but
has to.
or like I said, if
Kind of
no, sorry,
asshole
not
gives you
if.
red butchers and takes them away.
Well, exactly.
Tell me that.
So when the World Leaders book comes out, I would love to see Terminators, but then I want to see Red Butchers. I want to
Yeah.
see be able to take them in two different ways.
I think that's at least one unit I would like to see an Emperor's Children version of it. And even with the Emperor's Children version, like they could do very cool things. I
Mm.
know I'm getting deterred, right? But like if they gave World Leaders the Red Butchers, which gives you the +1 strength and double fight, that's cool. Slanish's thing has always kind of been endless cacophony. What if you spent
Yeah,
2 just to make a Terminator's unit? Like I don't know. Does it seem aggressors had to shoot twice forever?
no,
All
it's true.
right, you know what I mean. So it doesn't seem Nurgle got their thing. They have two versions of Terminators.
No, true
Uh,
between
Test Route and Blight Lords.
yeah,
And then base, you can do CSM base
yeah,
Nurgle Terminators. Tis each Thousand Suns rubrics. Or
yeah,
sorry, Scarab Vault Terminators. So I think Khorne and
yeah.
Slaanesh deserve their
You'll
vote.
see the Red Butchers, and then you'll see, like you said, Slanesh's version of them.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean that Lightning Claw thing. I don't know. I don't know how invested I should be in that. It seems bizarre to me. I don't like I again, if that's the thing, if they're just going to keep Terminators at 28 points with free dual lightning claws, and
Mm.
I can run Red Butchers, I'm fine with that. Like
Oh, big time.
I don't know how much Again, it's one of these things where what do you value a wound at? How many points are you willing? And chaos, I think it should be hordier than LSM than loyalists. So maybe
No,
this is
true
their thing,
because
right?
yeah,
More bodies and a little more glass cannony, but I don't know. Who knows, man? All I can say is right now, Red Butchers are the shit.
oh yeah.
And I'm always tempted just to run 20 and accept that the other one won't be Red Butchers, but whatever. Who cares, man? I mean, you're still
Exactly.
mulching out attacks, and we'll get
Mm.
into it later. But World Eater has some nice supporting stratagems, and there's things you can do, right? I think Terminators are probably one of the best looks for Chaos Space Marines right now, in my opinion, anyway.
Oh, big time. Moving along, we have Greater Possess and just straight up Possess. And I know I've heard you talk many, many, many times about your Possessed, so I definitely know how you feel about these guys. But before you jump into the Possessed, do you think you would ever see yourself running the Greater Possessed, or have you ever
Um,
toyed with it yet, or not?
I have toyed with it. The big thing that I don't know, assassinate's a thing,
Mm,
and you already have 4 characters in your typical Chaos Space Marine
yeah.
list. Now that being said, so possessed are base strength 5, okay,
Hmm.
and for the longest time, that's been perfect. But now you're starting to see more T5 stuff come along in the ways of Space Marines mainly. They've just been pumping out releases, and it doesn't seem too far off to see an entire Space Marine list that's sitting at toughness 5.
Yeah.
So up until recently, I didn't really think you needed the greater possess because your strength 5 you're already wounding. Strength 6 was just in this weird spot, right?
Yeah,
You didn't
you're
really
not
need
doing
it.
anything extra out of it. You're not going to be
Yeah.
wounding on anything better. But I know
Now,
where you're getting at is if you're sitting against something T5, and now you got these guys giving you +1 strength, so now you're strength 6, it makes a world of a difference.
well, now you're wounding on 3s, and then you've got 7 you wounded on 2s, and all of a sudden it's bye
Hmm.
bye blade guard,
Yeah.
right? And possessed. I'm going to kind of talk about both here. So yeah, greater possessed for me, things adding +1 strength. I think that has more value now. Possessed. there are so many. They've been one of the units that have just been propping up Chaos Space Marines for so long now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, the last CSM build that we saw that was very prevalent was basically an Alpha Legion possess spam. It wasn't marked Khorne, but you know,
No, it's
it
true. They
was.
had blobs with it with the Master of Possession, Exalt, like, and all
Yeah.
the extra stuff. So
Yeah. So I mean, I love them. I've ran them every possible way you can imagine.
and if they get
My
the same treatment as Death Guard with the straight up damage and stuff like that, that's going to be huge when it comes to the actual Chaos Space Marine book.
Yeah. Um, I think the so what we saw in the Death Guard book, they got T5. I don't expect that to be base
No.
CSM. Um, I think that's just a Death Guard thing.
Oh
Now,
yeah,
the
they
one
got
thing
the extra toughness, but as a world leader, would we see that base strength 6 where they're already space 5? That'd be nice.
it could be my favorite thing right now was the change to attacks that they're just base 4 because
That's
I've
oh man, that's
run
huge.
massive possessed blobs, and when you are running 20 and you only do 40 attacks, it feels bad.
Or you roll
Being
a 1.
guaranteed. Yeah. Oh yeah, it happens all the
Even
time.
worse.
I don't even know. I'm trying. It's we haven't been able to play for so long. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
I don't even think you can even CP reroll that anymore. I'd
I
have to
find
pull up the
CP
rule book.
reroll
I
got
can't.
very specific with what
Yeah,
you can actually use it on.
I can't remember. It might. I think you could. I think you can re-roll. Anyway, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Regardless, you can definitely roll 2 ones in a row. I've
Mm-hmm.
experienced that. And
Oh
then
yeah.
it's just like all the buffs in the world. You could have Prescient, so it's hitting on 2s with the Lord and Exalted Champion and Veterans, and you've just thrown 3, 4 CP into this unit, and you're not getting your return.
No.
So my most recent love for Khorne Possessed is in a Biles detachment,
Mm-hmm.
and the main reason is because of the blasphemous warp time with advanced in charge. These base Bile Possessed get +1 movement, +1 strength, so now they're 6. Now you don't need that greater possessed because the
Mm-hmm.
base Bile Possessed are strength 6. They move 8 inches, and because the creations of Bile is +1 move, +1
Yeah.
strength. Then there's a stratagem that lets them advance in charge, and
Mm-hmm.
you can warp time it. And I, if memory serves me correct, they can have a threat range of 42 inches, and then you can mark them Khorne, and they can fight twice. So
Yeah. No, it's ridiculous.
you get them in there, and they can reroll all the hits, and you can still vet them, and
Mm-hmm.
they just become blenders. And we're seeing Possess come up again. I think the list that just I don't know if they won the tournament, but there's a list that was doing very well with 60 Word Bearer Possessed, and I think he
Okay.
ran one squad of Khorne. I liked. I mean, the fight twice stratagem is just so valuable when you can get it off.
It's
Um,
expensive as all hell, but it's completely game changing.
Yeah. So for me, the reason why I love that Khorne unit and the Bile one is because they have a stratagem where at the beginning of a turn, you select one of your infantry units and they project a -1 to hit aura on the
Mm-hmm.
units around them. So when you pop that, if you make that charge and everything goes off and you launch that unit in, now you can fight twice, weed it in even further. And
Mm-hmm.
then you pop this aura, and you can get like a whole gun line that's -1 to
Oh
hit.
yeah.
Like it's so and again, all that made possible from by bloody, our bloody Lord and Savior, Angron, Angron and crew. So I
Soon
love
he's
Possessed.
watching, he's listening, he's
I,
planning.
yes, I'm not going to talk about the wound thing. I'm over it. Okay, but
I didn't even say anything.
I know, but every time I look, anyway, base 4 attacks I think is a great change for them. The
Oh,
only thing I'll say that's going to affect me is it looks like they're going to be capped at 10. So uh,
and that's the thing, but yeah. And
and
like I said, we're
realize
going off of Death Guard, and if it is any indication what is going to follow, hey, you never know. Maybe this is just strictly a Death Guard thing. But when it starts
yeah,
playing with maximum sizes, I can see that just still carrying over. So
I don't know. See, when we were talking before about Zerkers, oh, I guess they're coming up, aren't they? They're probably one of the
yeah,
next. Um, but the one of the things adding on to the wound conversation we were having earlier about whether it's worth it or not is me thinking that do we want 10 2 wound Zerkers or are we fine with 21 wound Zerkers? Because
yeah.
that's a way
Oh well, you're literally doubling the amount of attacks coming up.
yes. So I feel like I'm expecting the CSM, the new book, to cap all these things at 10, like they did it with
Probably.
Blade Marines. So that's
Because
where
you're
I'm
looking
kind of
at the
like,
20 wounds, because they're not going to want to see you running 20 guys with 40 wounds in a unit. Like, and that's what, again, it
no,
starts
that's
slowing down
absurd.
the game. And like, I
Yeah.
know morale is definitely played a lot differently, and you could technically lose a little bit more than you used to be able to, but it's still, yeah, you're going to definitely start seeing a lot more caps.
Losing 20 possessed makes me sad. Sad possessed sounds, whatever you think that sounds like. Sad moaning.
So next one we have the Hellbrute, which you don't see much, but you know what? I love always having at least one or two on the table just for the hell of it. Maybe it's because I own six of them. I don't know, but I always play them for fun.
So Hellbrutes are funny to me because whenever you see Legion keywords, it affects infantry, bikers, and Hellbrutes. Just Hellbrutes. No other
They're that
dreadnoughts.
special
No
child
demon.
that
Yeah,
needs that
exactly.
attention.
And okay, so I don't know about you, but I can't. I have three, um, and I constantly wrestle with this urge to run Hellbrutes. The best idea I've had so far is as Red Corsairs Khorne. Um,
Power Scourges all the way. Power Scourge, Power Fist.
well, that changed in the Death Card book too, but we'll
Mm,
get into that.
yeah.
Anyway, um, the best idea I've had is a Dark Apostle, basically chilling with them, giving them a 5-up invol, and then everything's Red Corsairs, so you can
Mm.
basically just run them up the board. And I think they have value. I don't know, man. It's like so I have these weird thoughts with them, like playing orcs. The parallel is Death Treads,
Yeah.
and Death Treads can come in squads of 3, and like
Oh man, can you
Hellbrutes, you can only
imagine
take
three
one.
Hellbrute?
But
Yeah,
there's
I get
weird
what you
things, dude.
mean.
There's so many weird things. A Hellbrute in its basic loadout costs as much as one Obliterator. And
Yeah,
when you put them side by side, you're like, what would you rather take, an Obliterator or a
exactly.
Hellbrute? I'd take
Yeah.
the Hellbrute personally, because
No,
the
it's
Hell
true.
right. But then it has these weird limiting things, and I don't know, dude.
Like
I just
I guess the way I look at it is like, and this is how I've always ran it. Marker Corn, you give him Power Fist, Power Scourge, just for a simple fact. I don't want shooting. He's not. He's Corn. He's not Zeech or whatever.
mhm.
But so your base four, you use his battering onslaught, so you get +1 if you have two melee weapons, which he does.
Yeah,
Corn will get him the +1. You get the Hateful Assault. When you got a Hellbrute charging in with pretty much 10 attacks, strength 8, hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s, like he'll wreck a whole unit.
I know, I know. I believe me. I love
But
the
like I
model.
said, like I would
I love
love to see a unit of 3 because like I said, you're starting to see in Death Guard with the blight launchers. Hey man, you can run 3 of those in a unit, the same
yeah.
base size as the Hellbrute, and like it
The,
goes back to how you're comparing it to like I said, the Obliterator. But
yeah, the game has gotten killier,
Mhm.
and Hellbrutes have not gotten more resilient.
No,
So they've sort of become this thing where there's definitely like niche circumstances where they work. And again, like, my idea of just having a Dark Apostle projecting an invul
yeah,
on them, for example, that's shoring a weakness. But I mean, as soon as you pick up one of those Hellbrutes, like that Dark Apostle's high and dry, like
oh yeah,
there's, you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know. Like there's without having a natural invul. I mean,
yeah,
T
because he has
seven eight
nothing
wounds
and
three.
just
Yeah,
basic 3 save. Yeah, because if he had like say a Terminator armor, a 2-up save, it would change it a little bit.
yeah. Like Eradicators are
But
just gonna
yeah,
delete these things. Um,
exactly.
and I don't, in fun games they're awesome.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
but it's just I don't know what I would do with them. Honestly,
I
they've
guess
just
it's
got
just
me
because the
stumped.
game evolves so much into Forge World dreadnoughts and stuff like that. People just don't look at these ones no more. So
Well,
that's
and
why you're
that's
not
the thing,
seeing it.
right?
And
Yeah, like I mean, okay, you want to talk about Forge World Dreadnoughts? I mean, what would you rather have two of these or a friggin' Leviathan with
yeah,
updated weapon sheets and a siege drill doing D3+3 or like 6 damage or what? Like,
exactly. And
you
that's
know,
the thing when it comes to, like I said, I'm always going to go back to the whole competitive list, but there's always going to be better options. So people aren't going to run
yeah,
these when they're like, oh, for the same points, I'm getting all this extra. So why am I going to run that? So
yeah. There's interesting things you can do with them that aren't as corn. Like just parking it in the back with two twin las cannons or something like that. And it's just like,
exactly. Yeah.
oh, if you want to shoot this, you can. It's kind of I. But again, like what does it do that like a Forge World Contemptor doesn't do better? I don't know.
Exactly.
So they have this awesome model, and you know, I
I say give it the rule. You can run it in 3, and you'd start seeing them. I bet.
I, I don't know. I don't see it, but I want to. I don't know what I see for them. I see them on the table kicking ass, but
Let's house rule it for a game, you and me, just for the hell of it, and
you
I'm
want
gonna
to try
run
it?
fucking
I'll try it.
2 3-man squads of them, and then just go.
Not even a reasonable 1 3-man squad. You're like, I'll run 9, and we'll just see how it does. We'll just see how it does. Nine red corps.
Just for fun. It's 9th edition. I'll run 9th. It makes sense, right?
So I'm vetsing this squad of Hellbrutes. I'll just remove my models now. Anyway. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so moving on to the bread and butter of the world leaders, we have the Berserkers.
Yeah. We've kind of just been talking about them the whole time. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know how much more we can say about them. They just got a nice buff with their chain swords going up in AP. They have a legit fight twice. And their biggest problem is getting there, but once they're there, they'll bully, man. Like, they'll punch way above their weight, man.
No, I think of the 4 Chaos Gods and for the 4 troop choices, I honestly would argue with somebody that Berserkers are probably the better of the 4 between like your Plague Marines and Noise Marines and stuff like that. It's just I honestly think for points per what they do, they probably do the most. If you get them in, obviously, I mean, but
I think you're biased.
No.
I think they all do great things for what they do. I think Cult Marines are the most mark worthy things in any of the books, right? Like, they all have these cool, unique things. I will say that I feel like Bolt Pistol, Chainsword, Khorne Berserkers might be the way, because the axe is only +1 strength, and they're already base strength 5.
But
and now the chainsword's
when we were talking
-1.
about the possess, where like I said, you're starting to see a lot more T5. Would the axe be more beneficial to get you up to 6?
Yeah, I mean, you're still gonna take the chainsword and get that extra attack.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Honestly, when I first saw the new chainswords, I'm hoping in the new book that they give double chainsword berserkers. I think that would be the best thing, because it's just a flat +1 attack, right? So now they go to 2, Shock Assault 3, World Eaters 4, 2 chainswords 5 6. And fight twice.
That just start getting too dirty. That's when you're gonna see, like you said, like 10 MSUs running around, dishing out so much hurt.
Yeah, I like Khorne Berserkers more than any other cult unit, but I also like close combat more than any other aspect of the game, and they do it better than any of the other ones. So they're great, man. I mean, if you like Khorne Berserkers, run Khorne Berserkers. I don't, they're 1 wound. They don't have an invul. They're a 3F save. But on the other side, they're only 17 points, I want to say. A squad is...
It was 16 or 17, but again, I'm running this based off of I'm not 100% sure what the FAQ did to them, if anything at all.
Yeah, they're like 17 or 18 points. And the nice thing is every model you get in is going to fight for 2, So, yeah, man. I mean, figure out how you're going to get them there. Rhinos or Forge World, drop pods,
the drills. You've been seeing drills left and right everywhere.
Yeah, the drill's fantastic. And that's all you really need to figure out with them. But once they're there, you'll feel great. I mean, they kick ass.
So moving on to the next one, and this unit is a unit that people didn't even talk about them because they meant nothing. But then out of nowhere, the last couple of months, you've been hearing the word mutilators.
That's the truth. 9th edition, man. Having a cheap infantry unit that can deep strike, pick things up, perform actions, like the 9th is so much different than 8th, and this unit had no play in 8th. But now in 9th, people are starting to realize, like, and I'm
because they stayed at 65 points, if I remember correctly, because Obliterators got shot up, but Mutilators just stayed the same.
Squad of 3 Mutilators is 105.
Okay.
So, but they deep strike for free. If you spike their weapons and roll hot, I mean, they're punching at strength 8, neg 3 damage in the best case scenario.
2 up save, 5 up invuln. If you're in cover holding an objective, that's 2 up and -1. You're still at 2 up, and
it's literally a 3-man Terminator squad with no guns, and it's fine because you can just sit there. They get true deep strikes, so you can just hang on to them,
Hmm.
and then all of a sudden, if your opponent gets a little overcommitted to one flank or something like that, and you realize he's weak there, you drop him in, they make the charge. They'll kill things. They
Hmm.
will definitely kill
Big time.
things. I mean, you're looking at for a squad of three, 12 attacks, World Eaters 15
Hmm.
attacks. And, you can mark them Khorne and their infantry. So if you need to fight twice to really beat the crap out of something, if it's going to get you victory points,
You
get the
spend those
victory
three
points.
CPs and do it.
Yeah, man. And then they get the 3-up demon save. So,
Five up in demon.
sorry. Yeah,
Three up
5-up.
demon. Man, what have I been missing?
Where is Magnus at? But yeah, I think ninth, the actual way the mission changed in ninth, because on the loyalist side of things, company vets are in like every list right now, and it's just a two-band unit of
Yeah.
basically Vanguard veterans with storm shields, right? But it's just something to put places. You can bring them in. They're pretty punchy, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, 100 points for what you get is pretty good to
Oh
me,
no,
man.
big time.
Um, I have three.
No, same
I
here. I got three kicking back.
I'd be down to like an obliterator version of that model, but I'd be down
Hey, you
for
never know.
Khorne
Maybe, like I
Berserkers too.
said,
So
maybe like you said, mutilators might become a corn thing. Which, hey, I'd be down for see something like that.
yeah, yeah. The few games that I've run them so far, they're definitely staying in my
Hmm.
list. So the internet was right about that.
Yeah. So moving on to the next one, so we can kind of wrap these guys up together. But Raptors and Warp Talons.
Yep. So as per the latest FAQ, Raptors are now 15 points a model,
Hmm.
and Warp Talons are now 23 points a model. So the Warp Talons went down three. The Raptors went down four, I believe.
But the big thing with
But
the Warp Talons is they went down, yes, and then Lightning Claws being free because I used to shoot them up quite a bit in points.
yeah, so basically, if you're looking at Raptors and Warp Talons, you're spending eight more points in Warp Talons. You're getting the same amount of attacks. Actually, sorry, they would get one more because they have two Lightning Claws, whereas Raptors only have one
Yeah.
Chainsword. They're rerolling wounds, and they get a 5-up pinball.
Yeah.
So that's the difference between them. And also, Warp Talons, they can't be overwatched when they charge from Deep Strike, so you have nothing to
Exactly.
lose there.
Yep.
Whereas Raptors, if I think Warp Talons, they have this neat little thing where if someone's running like a Manticore or something in the back corner or something, and like you just want to, you're not going to get to it. Warp
Yeah.
Talons can come down, tag it out of Overwatch,
Hmm.
and maybe bracket it or something. But the most important thing is it can't Overwatch, and you've just ruined their next turn,
Yeah.
right? Because they have to shoot that unit. It has a five
Yeah.
up infall. It'll surprise you. Raptors, to me, 15 points for them right now. It's I trying to not buy 45 right now because they seem so good, man. I
Mm.
mean, really,
One
15 models with the new. Man, dude.
one thing I wish they had, and it would be kind of cool, just where, like I said, they are the jetpack unit of the book. And if I'm trying to remember, like I'm probably going back an edition or two, but whenever like the Blood Angels jump packs, when they got like that charge in, you got all that extra buffs. Like if I think there was like extra damage or was it extra strength or something like that.
Well, the base Blood Angels trade is +1 to wound on turns you charge, I believe,
Okay, maybe
and
that's
then
what it
they
was
added
too.
+1 to advance and charge.
Okay.
So their Legion trade is awesome. I mean, if Khorne
Mm.
got that,
But that's what I mean. Like, give Raptors something like if you can get the charge off, get +1 attack or +1 damage or something like that for just like impact hits
yeah,
or something. Or
yeah. Um, I think for 15 points, they're great. I
oh
mean, they
no,
move
definitely
12
they're not that
inches.
much more than a basic Marine. And then, like I said, you're getting an extra 6-inch movement.
Yeah, they fly.
Hmm.
You can get the champion out if you want. I mean, it's not much, but -1 leadership can
Hmm.
start to mean something somewhere. And they can just be all over the place. And as long as you realize what they're capable of, I mean, don't go charge a squad of 5 Blade Guard vets with them because
Oh
you won't
no,
do
they're not
anything.
gonna do nothing.
But playing some of these secondaries and being in spots and hiding and things like that. I mean, at 15 points, I love it. I think it would be hilarious. Again, I'm a big sucker for advance and charge.
Hmm.
So of course, I made a list with 45 Raptors and 30 Warp Talons as Red Corsairs. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm better than that because I'm not. But yeah, I think that was a great point change. And again, another thing where if they go up to 2 wounds, they probably cap them at 10 models.
Yeah.
And, they probably jump up to 19, 20 points again. I don't know. I think their new point cost is great. And I think they make a lot of sense for Chaos List right now. They just add a lot of mobility. And yeah, I mean, either or. Warp Talons are one of my favorite sculpts for CSM right now. Warp Talons look
They're
amazing.
so nice.
So nice, dude.
And the funny part is I'm sitting on, I think it's like 5 sets of Dark Vengeance from back in the day, and I got the Chosen with the dual lightning claws, throw on a jetpack. There you go. They're not as nice as, like I said, the newer Warp Talons, but
Yeah.
more Warp Talons.
Yeah, I was looking at Berserkers and just putting jump packs on them because I converted out my Khorne Berserkers so they would look different, just using those as Raptors. But yeah, I mean, Warp Talons, the new change to Lightning Claws, so they get +2 attacks. So now as a World Eaters, a single Warp Talon gets 5 attacks off the charge. I mean, that's Lightning Claws.
Rerolling wounds, everything. Yeah, no, that's crazy.
It's great. And yeah, 23 points is reasonable. 26 was not reasonable.
Yeah, that's whenever you're just like, you start looking again. There's better options for that amount of points.
Yeah, and you want them to make the charge. You want them to be Khorne. Violent Urgency, man. +1 to charge.
Exactly.
Deep strike them. Boom.
Alrighty. Well, you know what? I think it's safe to say, because obviously when we start talking Khorne, we ramble on a lot to the point where we're, I think, already well over the hour mark. But you know what? This is not a bad thing. This is not a bad thing, because this means that now you listeners are going to have to come back for part 2, where we finish off the rest of the books. And then, you know what? We can actually take our time going through a lot of the stratagems and actually give you guys some list builds that we have, if we don't ramble on too long in the second episode. But hey, maybe part 3. I don't know where this is going to go. We can keep just talking to make a whole series out of this.
Yeah,
but for now, we're going to... Yeah.
What's the worst thing you can do to a Warhammer player? Ask him to talk about Warhammer. Good Lord, man. My wife has realized that we were driving around and we ran into one of the guys from the club. And after like a few minutes, she's like, okay, all right, that's enough. We're going now. I was like, oh, yeah. You don't even realize it, dude.
Oh, God, no.
But, yeah.
But yeah, so like I said, we'll wrap her up tonight. Then we'll get together. We'll kick her off for part 2. We'll dive into it a little bit more than we did now. And again, I joked about it, but if it needs a part 3, it needs a part 3. Because like I said, when you start talking Warhammer, it's a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoy hearing us ramble on as much as we did right now. Yeah. I say this a lot in the last couple of episodes. I'm going to keep shouting this out. If you enjoy these faction focuses, if you enjoy hearing just us ramble on, going through books about some different factions that you guys would like to hear about, let us know in the comments. Like, leave a comment being like, hey, we like what we're doing, or like even suggest some stuff.
I'd just like to add that our first attempt, we did finish the whole episode. So we're getting worse at this.
Oh, we are. We are. Yeah, now that you mentioned, we did get it. It was a little bit of a longer episode, but yeah, oh man, we're bad. We're bad. Yeah, good thing there's like not a third person. Might even be worse.
But no, maybe they'd reel it in. Maybe they'd keep us from rambling on too much. Like a third person just be like, okay.
All right, moving on. But I didn't tell you the game I had 3 years ago. It made a difference.
God. Well, let me tell you about one of my first. No, anyway.
But yeah, hey, Kier, thanks for jumping on with me with this episode. I always enjoy talking Khorne with you.
Yeah, man. We'll have to have our Khorne v. Khorne showdown soon.
Yeah, once we get out of the red phase, which sounds really good for Khorne, but it's not good for us playing-wise.
No. This is not Khorne's color. No. This is not what they wanted. This is Nurgle's
All right, guys.
color.
Oh, yeah. All right, guys.
Anyway.
Thank you very much for joining us, and everybody, have a good night.